It is just after dawn on the morning of April the 20th, 1946, the Führer's birthday. A Horten HO-18 jet bomber of the Luftwaffe's best bomber wing takes off on the most important mission of World War II. It is piloted by the Luftwaffe's best bomber pilot. Target is 3,000 miles away, New York. Baumbach's bomber is flying at an altitude nearly 10 miles high and is invisible to American radar. No one hears or sees it as it passes over Manhattan at 8 a.m. local time. The morning rush hour has begun. Fortunately for New York, World War II ended while the Horten 18 was still under design. In 1944, Hitler's thousand-year Reich was in peril. The Allies had landed in Normandy. Over the skies of Germany, planes of the United States 8th Air Force roamed at will, bombing cities to rubble. At this 11th hour, Adolf Hitler placed his faith in Germany's scientists to produce new wonder weapons to turn the tide of war. The first of these weapons were already operational: the Me-262 jet fighter, the Me-163 rocket fighter, the V-1 cruise missile, and the V-2, the world's first ballistic missile. But these were only the first generation. They were not yet enough to turn defeat into victory. That required more advanced weapons still. September 1944, Nazi Germany faces defeat. The Führer blames the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, under the command of World War I fighter ace Hermann Göring. The once proud Luftwaffe is running short of pilots and fuel. In the air, the Allies have total superiority. With Göring in disgrace, Hitler's protege and Minister for Armaments, Albert Speer, seizes the initiative. He orders the German aircraft industry to produce a new fighter to destroy the marauding Allied bombers. This new plane must be simple to build using slave labor, and simple to fly by newly trained pilots. It is to be mass-produced, like the Volkswagen car, in thousands per month. With every remaining able-bodied adult male needed in the army on the Eastern Front, the new plane is to be flown by teenage boys of the Hitler Youth. These will be trained hurriedly on gliders. Because the sands of time are running out for Nazi Germany, Speer declares the new fighter must be designed, built, and put into production in the space of only 90 days. The new fighter will be called the Volksjäger, or People's Fighter. Professor Willy Messerschmitt, designer of the legendary 109 fighter of Battle of Britain fame, refuses to participate, saying it is impossible to create an aircraft in such a short period. But there is a German aircraft designer willing to take up the challenge. He is Messerschmitt's arch-rival, Ernst Heinkel.
Ernst Heinkel was the grand old man of German aircraft. He'd been building aircraft since World War I. He had a unique way of selling these planes. He had a hunting lodge outside of Berlin, and he would get the Luftwaffe High Command and the Air Ministry personnel, and they'd shoot stag, and then they'd have a good food and drink and get drunk, and then he'd sell them the airplanes. Willy Messerschmitt, almost certainly a serious Nazi, different man, an intellectual scientist. He built his aircraft as scientific implements. A number of other companies took part in the Volksjäger competition. The big Junkers company produced a design which had essentially a jet engine in a pod with two wings stuck on. It would never have been stable in flight. It was a silly project. Then there was the Blum & Voss company, who were shipbuilders, but over the years they'd begun to produce rather curious aircraft designs. They tried another all-wing jet pod device, and that actually came quite close to winning.
After the HE-178, Heinkel built the world's first jet fighter, the HE-280. It flies in 1941. But the Luftwaffe High Command do not see the new jet as urgent, and it is not put into production. Hitler's eyes are on a blitzkrieg attack on Russia. Propeller-driven fighters such as the Messerschmitt 109 will do for the planned short war in the East. Germany will waste a crucial 2 years before turning to jet fighters to counter Allied bombing. When later Hitler demands jet fighters to regain the initiative against Allied bombers, it is not Heinkel's project, but that of Willy Messerschmitt that is ordered into production. The shark-like Me-262. But difficulties in perfecting the revolutionary new jet engine delay the introduction of the 262 into combat till after Normandy. German fighter ace and head of all fighter forces is Adolf Galland. He is convinced that if only he can get enough 262s, he can destroy so many American B-17s that the Allies will call a stop to their bombing campaign. But production of the 262 is slow because it requires scarce metal and 2 revolutionary jet power plants, which are difficult to build. Germany needs a fast jet powered by only one engine, a plane constructed from wood and simple materials that are easy to come by, the Volksjäger.
The Volksjäger was built with wooden wings for simplicity and because they were short of materials, though it's got an aluminium body. You had therefore to glue the wings and the tail onto the rest of the aircraft. And unfortunately, the one bit of German technology that never seemed to work, even by the end of the war, were the glues, and a whole series of aircraft, including the 162, tended to fall apart because the glues weren't strong enough. The 162, or at least the first designs of the 162, do have structural problems. The tail is too short, the back end of the fuselage body is too short, and so that tended to create all sorts of gyrations in flight, which in the hands of a bad pilot could get out of control and the aircraft would come apart. However, I think it's wrong to condemn the aircraft out of hand. If you build an aircraft so that it's totally stable in flight, then you can't dogfight with it and kill other fighters. The best fighters are unstable, and therefore what you need to add is a good pilot to make sure that you can use that instability to good effect.
Galland opposes Speer's new jet fighter. He argues it cannot be built in time and it can only be flown by experienced pilots, a commodity Germany is fast running out of. But he has not reckoned on Ernst Heinkel. Working round the clock, sleeping beside their desks, Heinkel's team design and build the first Volksjäger in only 74 days. The Volksjäger was powered by a single BMW 003 jet engine, positioned on the top of the aircraft. This unusual position meant that complicated and heavy ducting could be eliminated. It also meant engines could be changed quickly in the field. The body of the Volksjäger was metal, but the simple wings were wooden and contained fuel tanks. Unusual for combat aircraft of the period, the HE-162 was fitted with an ejector seat for the pilot. Also rare then was the nose-wheel undercarriage. The aircraft was armed with 2 large 20mm cannon with 120 rounds per gun. One shell from these weapons could disintegrate a US B-24 Liberator bomber. The Volksjäger had a maximum speed of 562 miles an hour and was faster than the Me-262. Deep under the mountains of central Germany, Speer builds a vast secret underground factory complex. Buried under millions of tons of solid rock, it is safe from Allied bombing. Here will be built 3 Nazi wonder weapons: the V-1 cruise missile, the V-2 rocket, and the Volksjäger. The first HE-162 was rolled out and flown for the first time on December the 6th, 1944, reaching a speed of 522 miles per hour at 20,000 feet altitude. On December the 10th, it is displayed to the Luftwaffe High Command, with Flight Captain Peter at the controls. Tragedy occurs. The wooden wing disintegrates and the plane crashes, killing Peter. The cause is the poor quality glue used to construct the wing. But Speer would allow nothing to stand in the way of mass producing the Volksjäger. In March 1940,